The government's flagship Rwanda bill is going to go through its second reading in the House of Lords today.
As Tory MPs worry that some in their party could be tempted by amendments put up by Labour, Liberal Democrat peers are reportedly planning to defy convention and vote against the bill.
Well, we're also joined now by the former chair of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood. Tobias, thank you so much for joining us. The bill in the House of Lords, it seems like there may be some people and some policies at play to try and delay the Rwanda bill. What would you be saying to those who are trying to eke this out for as long as possible?
Yes, I would really discourage that from happening. You'll recall the painful process that we went through to get where we are today. I was one of the final contributors to the debate that we had in second reading. I asked the Home Secretary straight up, can he tell me whether this bill as it stands recognizes and honors international law? And he said, yes, it does. I understand absolutely the passion, the desire, almost the importance as well, just to underline that important aspect of British place in the world, that we support, uphold, write, draft international law, correct it when it's required. We do not breach international law. But I would also say that if the Lords choose to change it, to bolster that aspect, then we'll see the usual characters in the Commons then challenging the bill itself. And the whole thing has been, I think, a bigger distraction on the wider strategy of what we're doing to tackle the migration issue, which I know is what people up and down the country want us to do. So I would say, please recognize the difficulties of this. It is a compromise, there's no doubt about it. But once it's there, it hopefully will act as a deterrent, but be part of that wider package of measures that saw actually the migration, the numbers go down by a third last year. We're tackling the gangs that are behind this as well.
Yeah. This
has taken up so much bandwidth, I'm afraid, in number 10 and in Parliament. I really hope that it is not prolonged.
Yeah, Mr. Ellwood, though, this is a distraction upon a distraction, isn't it? This is an attempt by the government to wave a magic wand and declare Rwanda a safe country via treaty, which is obviously going to cause some problems in the Lords and in the law courts, even if it does get through.
Yes, you're right, and that's a concern that I raised as well. As it stands at the moment, though, if there's any issues, individual issues with anybody being sent there, we still lean on the ECHR as well. I think that's absolutely appropriate. It will be a minister to decide that. This is where the Lords actually wants to bolster the bill itself. But I make it clear that if anything changes, what you will see is those on the other side of my party seeking to amend the bill even further, and then it won't get through. Then it will not pass. So again, this is a massive distraction. So many other things going on around the world, not least in the Middle East at the moment, that require our attention, but also the bigger picture of how we deal with migration. I make it really clear this is one plank of a wider series of measures. It's not going to be the utopia. We'll get one flight back to Rwanda. It won't suddenly solve the issue itself, but it is becoming such a not a distraction, but it's eating up valuable time in Parliament the longer it progresses.
You mentioned other things happening around the world, Tobias. Must ask you why you're here. Overnight, 3 American troops were killed, dozens have been injured on what the US believe was an Iran-backed attack on that US base in Jordan yesterday. There are obviously real fears that this action means there's going to be potential further escalation. How do you think the US are going to respond, and will that involve us too?
So it's worth just stressing, and it's important that the British people understand this. This is one example of many of the new era of insecurity that we've entered and we need to prepare for. That's why there's been so much discussion about the size and complexion of our armed forces. You're right. Escalation and expanding of this Middle East instability is on the cards. More and more nations have been brought into this, including non-state actors as well. And the prospect of miscalculation with no single state, including the United States, not being in full control. But a lot of pressure on President Biden to respond, whether he does that by targeting a militant group in Iraq or Syria, or targeting the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, either in Iran or in Iraq or Syria, is a possibility as well. I don't think either nation wants to ratchet up to full-scale war, but when nobody is in control of events, that's the danger point there as well. And this does affect Britain. We need to make it very, very clear. This isn't an operation of choice. It's a necessity because our economy is increasingly being affected by instability in the Middle East. And that, of course, don't forget, oil prices going up is to Iran's benefit. So, but there's an absence of strategy, I'm afraid, of the last decade of how we handle Iran and what it's doing in the Middle East with its proxy influence.
Tobias, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.